Christ is risen. Christos anesti. Christos voskrese. El Mesih kom. Ha Mashiach kom. Christus resurrexit. Cristo ha resucitado. Christos anviat. Christi uniao. Aristotosu fukatsu. Hidu fuhola. Christo boahashane. 3 Kings. 1 Kings in Hebrew. Chapter 2, verse 26 through chapter 3, verse 28. And the king said to Abiathar the priest, Depart thou quickly to Anathoth, to thy farm, for thou art worthy of death this day. But I will not slay thee, because thou hast borne the ark of the covenant of the Lord before my father, and because thou wast afflicted in all things wherein my father was afflicted. And Solomon removed Abiathar from being a priest of the Lord, that the word of the Lord might be fulfilled, which he spoke concerning the house of Heli and Selam. And a report came to Joab, son of Zeruiah, and Joab had turned after Adonias, and he went not after Solomon. And Joab fled to the tabernacle of the Lord, and caught hold of the horns of the altar. And it was told Solomon, saying, Joab has fled to the tabernacle of the Lord, and lo, he has hold of the horns of the altar. And King Solomon sent to Joab, saying, What ails thee, that thou hast fled to the altar? And Joab said, Because I was afraid of thee, and fled for refuge to the Lord. And Solomon sent Benaias, the son of Jodi, saying, Go, and slay him, and bury him. And Benaias, son of Jodi, came to Joab to the tabernacle of the Lord, and said to him, Thus says the king, Come forth. And Joab said, I will not come forth, for I will die here. And Benaias, son of Jodi, returned and spoke to the king, saying, Thus has Joab spoken, and thus he has answered me. And the king said to him, Go, and do to him as he has spoken, and kill him. And thou shalt bury him, and thou shalt remove this day the blood which he shed without cause from me and from the house of my father. And the Lord has returned upon his own head the blood of the unrighteousness, inasmuch as he attacked 2 men more righteous and better than himself, and slew them with the sword, when Father David knew not of their blood, even Abner, the son of Ner, the commander-in-chief of Israel, and Amasa, the son of Jethro, the commander-in-chief of Judah. And their blood is returned upon his head, and upon the head of his seed forever. But to David and his seed, and his house, and his throne, may there be peace forever from the Lord. So Benaias, son of Jodi, went up, and attacked him, and slew him, and buried him in his house in the wilderness. And the king appointed Benaias, son of Jodi, in his place over the host, and the kingdom was established in Jerusalem. As for Zadok the priest, the king appointed him to be a high priest in the room of Abiathar. And Solomon, son of David, reigned over Israel and Judah in Jerusalem. And the Lord gave understanding to Solomon, and very much wisdom, and largeness of heart, as the sand by the seashore. And the wisdom of Solomon abounded exceedingly beyond the wisdom of all the ancients, and beyond all the wise men of Egypt. And he took the daughter of Pharaoh, and brought her into the city of David, until he had finished building his own house, and the house of the Lord first, and the wall of Jerusalem round about. In 7 years he made and finished them. And Solomon had 70,000 bearers of burdens, and 80,000 hewers of stone in the mountain. And Solomon made the sea, and the bases, and the great lavers, and the pillars, and the fountain of the court, and the brazen sea, and he built the citadel as a defense above it. He made a breach in the wall of the city of David. Thus the daughter of Pharaoh went up out of the city of David to her house which he had built for her. Then he built the citadel, and Solomon offered up 3 whole burnt offerings in the year, and peace offerings on the altar which he built to the Lord. And he burnt incense before the Lord, and finished the house. And these are the chief persons who presided over the works of Solomon, 3,600 masters of the people that wrought the works. And built Asur, and Magdo, and Gezer, and for Bethoron, and Baalath. Only after he had built the house of the Lord, and the wall of Jerusalem round about, afterwards he built these cities. And when David was yet living, he charged Solomon, saying, Behold, there is with thee Semei, the son of Gera, of the seed of Benjamin, out of Hebron. He cursed me with a grievous curse in the day in which I went into the camp. And he came down to meet me at Jordan. And I swore to him by the Lord, saying, He shall not be slain with the sword. But now do thou not hold him guiltless, for thou art a man of understanding, and thou wilt know what thou shalt do to him, and thou shalt bring down his gray hairs with blood to the grave. And the king called Semei, and said to him, Build thee a house in Jerusalem, and dwell there, and thou shalt not go out thence any whither. And it shall come to pass in the day that thou shalt go forth and cross over the brook Kedron. Know assuredly that thou shalt certainly die, thy blood shall be upon thine head. And the king caused him to swear in that day. And Semei said to the king, Good is the word that thou hast spoken, my lord, O king. Thus will thy servant do. And Shimei dwelt in Jerusalem 3 years. And it came to pass, after the 3 years, that the 2 servants of Shimei ran away to Anchus, the son of Maacah, king of Geth. And it was told Shimei, saying, Behold, thy servants are in Geth. And Shimei rose up, and saddled his ass, and went to Geth to Anchus to seek out his servants. And Shimei went, and brought his servants out of Geth. And it was told Solomon, saying, Shimei is gone out of Jerusalem to Geth, and has brought back his servants. And the king sent and called Shimei, and said to him, Did I not adjure thee by the Lord, and testify to thee, saying, In whatsoever day thou shalt go out of Jerusalem, and go to the right or the left, know certainly that thou shalt assuredly die? And why hast thou not kept the oath of the Lord, and the commandment which I commanded thee? And the king said to Shimei, Thou knowest all thy mischief which thy heart knows, which thou didst to David my father. And the Lord has recompensed thy mischief on thine own head. And King Solomon is blessed, and the throne of David shall be established before the Lord forever. And Solomon commanded Banias, the son of Jodi, and he went forth and slew him. And King Solomon was very prudent and wise. And Judah and Israel were very many, as the sand which is by the sea for multitude, eating and drinking and rejoicing. And Solomon was chief in all the kingdoms, and they brought gifts, and served Solomon all the days of his life. And Solomon began to open the domains of Libanus, and he built Thermi in the wilderness. And this was the daily provision of Solomon, 30 measures of fine flour, and 60 measures of ground meal, 10 choice calves, and 20 oxen from the pastures, and 100 sheep, besides stags and does, and choice fed birds. For he ruled in all the country on this side of the river, from Raphi unto Gaza, over all the kings on this side of the river. And he was at peace on all sides round about. And Judah and Israel dwelt safely, every one under his vine and under his fig tree, eating and drinking and feasting, from Dan even to Beersheba, all the days of Solomon. And these were the princes of Solomon: Azariah, son of Zadok, the priest, and Ornaiah, son of Nathan, chief of the officers. And he went to his house, and Suba the scribe, and Basa, son of Akathalim, recorder, and Abai, son of Joab, commander-in-chief, and Achiri, son of Edrei, was over the levies, and Banias, son of Jodi, over the household and over the brickwork, and Kakar, the son of Nathan, was counselor. And Solomon had 40,000 broodmares for his chariots, and 12,000 horses. And he reigned over all the kings from the river to the land of the Philistines, and to the borders of Egypt. So Solomon, the son of David, reigned over Israel and Judah in Jerusalem. Nevertheless, the people burnt incense on the high places, because a house had not yet been built to the Lord. And Solomon loved the Lord, so as to walk in the ordinances of David his father. Only he sacrificed and burnt incense on the high places. And he arose and went to Gabaon to sacrifice there, for that was the highest place, and great. Solomon offered a whole burnt offering of 1,000 victims on the altar in Gabaon. And the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream by night. And the Lord said to Solomon, Ask some petition for thyself. And Solomon said, Thou hast dealt very mercifully with thy servant David my father, according as he walked before thee in truth, and in righteousness, and in uprightness of heart with thee. And thou hast kept for him this great mercy, to set his son upon his throne, as it is this day. And now, O Lord my God, thou hast appointed thy servant in the room of David my father. And I am a little child, and know not my going out and my coming in. But thy servant is in the midst of thy people, whom thou hast chosen, a great people, which cannot be numbered. Thou shalt give therefore to thy servant a heart to hear, and to judge thy people justly, and to discern between good and evil. For who will be able to judge this thy great people? And it was pleasing before the Lord that Solomon asked this thing. And the Lord said to him, Because thou hast asked this thing of me, and hast not asked for thyself long life, and hast not asked wealth, nor hast asked the lives of thine enemies, but hast asked for thyself understanding to hear judgment, behold, I have given thee an understanding and wise heart. There has not been any one like thee before thee, and after thee there shall not arise one like thee. And I have given thee what thou hast not asked, wealth and glory, so there has not been any one like thee among kings. And if thou wilt walk in my way, to keep my commandments and my ordinances, as David thy father walked, then will I multiply thy days. And Solomon awoke, and behold, it was a dream. And he arose, and came to Jerusalem, and stood before the altar that was in front of the ark of the covenant of the Lord in Sion. And he offered whole burnt offerings and sacrificed peace offerings, and made a great banquet for himself and all his servants. Then there appeared two harlots before the king, and they stood before him. And the one woman said, Hear me, my lord. I and this woman dwelt in one house, and we delivered in the house. And it came to pass on the third day after I was delivered, this woman also was delivered, and we were together. There was no one with us besides our two selves in the house. And this woman's child died in the night, because she overlaid it. And she arose in the middle of the night, and took my son from my arms, and laid him in her bosom, and laid her dead son in my bosom. And I arose in the morning to suckle my son, and he was dead. And behold, I considered him in the morning, and behold, it was not my son whom I bore. And the other woman said, No, but the living is my son, and the dead is thy son. So they spoke before the king. And the king said to them, Thou sayest, This is my son, even the living one. And this woman's son is the dead one. And thou sayest, No, but the living is my son, and the dead is thy son. And the king said, Fetch a sword. And they brought a sword before the king. And the king said, Divide the live child, the suckling, in two, and give half of it to one, and half of it to the other. And the woman, whose the living child was, answered and said to the king, for her bowels yearned over her son. And she said, I pray thee, my lord, give her the child, and in no way slay it. But the other said, Let it be neither mine nor hers, divide it. Then the king answered and said, Give the child to her that said, Give it to her, and by no means slay it. She is its mother. And all Israel heard this judgment which the king judged, and they feared before the king, because they saw that the wisdom of God was in him to execute judgment. Psalm 99, 100 in Hebrew, a psalm for thanksgiving. Make a joyful noise to the Lord, all the earth. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come before his presence with exultation. Know that the Lord, he is God. He made us, and not we ourselves. We are his people, and the sheep of his pasture. Enter into his gates with thanksgiving, and his courts with hymns. Give thanks to him. Praise his name. For the Lord is good. His mercy is forever, and his truth endures to generation and generation. Psalm 100, 101 in Hebrew, a psalm of David. I will sing to thee, O Lord, of mercy and judgment. I will sing a psalm, and I will be wise in a blameless way. When wilt thou come to me? I walked in the innocence of my heart in the midst of my house. I have not set before mine eyes any unlawful thing. I have hated transgressors. A perverse heart is not cleaved to me. I have not known an evil man, forasmuch as he turns away from me. Him that privily speaks against his neighbor, him have I driven from me. He that is proud in look and insatiable in heart, with him I have not eaten. Mine eyes shall be upon the faithful of the land, that they may dwell with me. He that walked in a perfect way, the same ministered to me. The proud doer dwelt not in the midst of my house. The unjust speaker prospered not in my sight. Early did I slay all the sinners of the land, that I might destroy out of the city of the Lord all that work iniquity. Proverbs chapter 21, verses 12 through 16. A righteous man understands the hearts of the ungodly, and despises the ungodly for their wickedness. He that stops his ears from hearing the poor, himself also shall cry, and there shall be none to hear him. A secret gift calms anger, but he that forbears to give stirs up strong wrath. It is the joy of the righteous to do judgment, but a holy man is abominable with evildoers. A man that wanders out of the way of righteousness shall rest in the congregation of giants. The Holy Gospel according to St. Luke, chapter 19, verses 28 through 48. And when he had thus spoken, he went before, ascending up to Jerusalem. And it came to pass, when he was come nigh to Bethphage and Bethany, at the mount called the Mount of Olives, he sent two of his disciples, saying, Go ye into the village over against you, in which at your entering ye shall find a colt tied, whereon yet never man sat. Loose him, and bring him hither. And if any man ask you, Why do ye loose him? Thus shall ye say unto him, Because the Lord hath need of him. And they that were sent went their way, and found even as he had said unto them. And as they were loosing the colt, the owners thereof said unto them, Why loose ye the colt? And they said, The Lord hath need of him. And they brought him to Jesus, and they cast their garments upon the colt, and they sat Jesus thereon. And as he went, they spread their clothes in the way. And when he was come nigh, even now at the descent of the Mount of Olives, the whole multitude of the disciples began to rejoice and praise God with a loud voice, for all the mighty works that they had seen, saying, Blessed be the King that cometh in the name of the Lord, peace in heaven,
and glory in the highest. And some of the Pharisees from among the multitude said unto him, Master, rebuke thy disciples. And he answered and said unto them, I tell you, that if these should hold their peace, the stones would immediately cry out. And when he was come near, he beheld the city, and wept over it, saying, If thou hadst known, even thou, at least in this thy day, the things which belong unto thy peace, but now they are hid from thine eyes. For the day shall come upon thee, that thine enemies shall cast a trench about thee, and compass thee round, and keep thee in on every side, and shall lay thee even with the ground, and thy children within thee, and they shall not leave in thee one stone upon another, because thou knewest not the time of thy visitation. And he went into the temple, and began to cast out them that sold therein, and them that bought, saying unto them, It is written, My house is the house of prayer, but ye have made it a den of thieves. And he taught daily in the temple. But the chief priests and the scribes and the chief of the people sought to destroy him, and could not find what they might do, for all the people were very attentive to hear him.